All right, boys and girls, we've done our little mini project with our pinch pots. Now we're gonna try to make a slab to make a little coaster. So I need a little bit of a bigger piece for this, and then I'm going to do something called wedging. Wedging your clay is just sort of getting the air bubbles out of it, so when you put it in the kiln, something that's finished, it doesn't kind of explode in the kiln. So what I'm gonna do is take my clay and I'm just going to press it down with my hands and keep flipping it over and pressing it. And each time I'm sort of flipping it and pressing, flipping it and pressing. So if there's any air bubbles in your ceramics, the kiln, what happens is it gets so hot and those air bubbles sort of just explode and your project could break in the kiln. So you want to just make sure all the air bubbles are out before you do anything else. So if I've wedged this a few times, I should be good. What I'm going to do now is just sort of flatten it out a bit with my hand. And then I need to grab 3 things to roll this slab out. My rulers will help me to roll an even slab. They should be about 1 foot apart, and I can measure that with my rolling pin, and place them next to your clay. Your rolling pin will roll this out for you, and what you want to do is start on the rulers. This will help you roll an even slab. So I'm going to roll up and down, and I have to really use my muscles. I want to make sure the rolling pin is on the rulers every time I roll this. It might help me if I just roll this down a bit to get it looser, and then I can keep rolling. And if I notice I'm sort of getting to the end of my piece of canvas here, I'm going to switch my rulers around to this side now, and I'm going to keep rolling it out this way. And I'm going to keep kind of switching this up just to make sure I have an even slab. Once I think this is rolled out even, I've gone left to right, up and down a couple times, then what I can do is take my slab off. I can check it out carefully to make sure it's even. So you should see all the way around, it's pretty even. The sides are the same thickness all the way around. So what I'm going to do now is just cut this into a square using one of my wood or plastic knife tools. It does not have to be a big square. We're just going to make a tiny coaster. And these extra pieces that I have are going to go back into the clay bin, so don't throw these away. Someone else can use these. So now I've got an even square. You can kind of take it off. Make sure everything looks good. Maybe smooth my edges out a bit with my water or my slip here. And once everything looks pretty good, I don't want to get this too wet because I'm about to cover it with something called glaze. Okay. Once everything looks pretty good here, I am now going to cover this in something called underglaze. Now, underglaze is a special type of glaze. It's a glaze that can go on wet clay. Usually we put glaze on clay that's already been fired in the kiln, but this is underglaze, so it goes under, sort of like the clay before it's fired. So what I'm going to do is take a tiny cup and fill up the underglaze color that I want. This is what the underglaze bottles look like. I am going to take my thick brush and just cover the clay with the paint. It can be a little bit lumpy, so kind of just smooth it out, mix it up. I'm only going to cover one side, not both, and just paint it right onto the clay. Your underglaze is going to need a couple layers, so do the first layer on top, then you can work on the edges. And then once you got the edges, do the top one more time. Left to right, up and down. And then do the edges one more time. So a few layers is good for underglaze. If you notice there's any spots that you can still see the ceramic underneath, just do one more layer. Left to right, up and down, nice and smooth. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to wash my brush off, not in my slip, but I need to get a different water cup for this. And then once I'm done with that, I'm also just going to carefully lift this up. I can use my tool to help me if I don't want to touch the glaze. I'm going to put this on a piece of paper with my name on it or a paper plate. So I've got my 2 little mini projects here. They're ready to go in the kiln. Now for underglaze, what we're eventually going to do is we're going to do something called sgraffito. So once this is all dry, and it's kind of dried out, this has been drying for like a week so far, what you do is you take your needle tools, and underglaze is really cool because you can kind of carve a design into the clay. So you can kind of see I've started a design here. My needle tool will take parts of the underglaze off, and I can see the clay underneath, the white clay. So this is a way that I can make designs that I draw, patterns, pictures, things that I carve. So when our slab that we created is dry, this little blue slab that I have, we're going to be doing this technique, carving in a little design, and then our 2 little mini projects will be done. And we can start our final project, which is going to be, eventually, we're going to create a clay bowl. So we'll learn how to create the parts to make a bowl. All right, let's get started.